Awesome. It's great to be here. I'm Dave Fowler, the Chief Deliverability and Privacy Officer at Acton Software, fully automated marketing automation solution based in Portland, Oregon. I've been with the company a year, been in the space for 10. Obviously, I'm a little less younger than I used to be, with a lot less hair now, and there's many reasons for that, but we'll get into that later. It's great to be here. Thanks for your time. I think I'm the last, or second to last, between your weekend or your day and a cocktail, so hopefully that'll be good. So I've got about 52 slides or thereabouts. Actually, I've got 16, so we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A, or I could share my pictures from my holiday. First of all, it's great to be here, obviously, with really a great group of brands and people and super knowledgeable folks. So hopefully, at the end of my session, we'll just give you a little sprinkling about marketing automation and what that could mean for your integrated marketing plans moving forward between now and the busiest time of the year, which is obviously the holiday season that's coming up. And we're going to talk about a few things, and please just fire questions at me. As I said, there'll be plenty of time for Q&A, and we can get to that. And I could also answer any kind of privacy or deliverability related questions you may have about the market and those kinds of things. There's obviously a lot going on in that space right now, with changes to the inboxes over at Gmail and other places, which is going to affect the season coming up. So, without further ado, the agenda for this afternoon is really, we're going to talk about the marketer's conundrum, right? Let's see a show of the hands of the room. Who is a marketer in the room? Excellent. You're at the right conference. Who has marketing responsibilities in the room? Perfect. And who are salespeople in the mood trying to sell to marketers? Very few. Okay, only in the. I always sit in the back too, right? So that's good. That's good. So we're going to talk about the issues around that, right? In terms of why the barriers to success or the barriers of entry and those kinds of things, and we'll sort of break that down a little bit. But ultimately, at the end of the day, as you're all well aware, it's all about ROI, right? And getting to the inbox and getting converted. We're going to talk about the needs of the B2B and the B2C market. We're in a B2C conference, right? So why is the B2B guy up here talking about marketing automation? Because there's a land grab going on right now, and you're going to see the tenets of that. It's already been laid with some of the ESP movements and some of the things that are happening around that particular marketplace. And certainly as we sort of regather this time next year, the concepts that we'll be talking about today will probably be adopted right throughout your organizations, or at least be on the roadmap. Quick question, who has their holiday email plan put together between now and the end of the year? Excellent. You get a promotion in the back right there. So no one else other than one person has the holiday plan together. That's great. So let's understand the consumer, right? So that lady in the back understands the consumer, right? She's got the plan together. Everyone's going to leave the conference here tomorrow or Thursday, rush back to their offices and put the remainder of the 2013 mail plan together, and hopefully see the ROI at the end of that particular plan execution. So congratulations to you in the back. I'm going to talk a little about the transition from ESP, the email service, your traditional email service providers, into what's called the marketing automation providers, which is where we sit today. We'll talk about cross-channel marketing strategies for the holiday season, which is, if you take away one slide from the discussion today, that's the one that's going to get you promoted, right? So hopefully at the end of the day, you'll adopt those strategies and put them in place. And then we'll talk about the marketing automation for the entire customer life cycle, right? Which is a bit of a mouthful, but at the end of the day, you need to understand your digital domain, right? You need to understand your consumer, your prospect, and how you integrate them into your overall strategy, your plan to execute accordingly and appropriately, also known as job security. So if I missed anything off the agenda, feel free to throw something at me. So this was me about 25 years ago, 30 pounds lighter, lot more hair. But the reality is that you guys have your hands full, right? Anybody who's marketing in this room have their hands full. And the things that we're dealing with in 2013 weren't even on the radar 2 years ago, right? So what is it you're supposed to do? And how do you cope through that? You probably have multiple entities and multiple organizations that you work with, vendors, outsourcing, all these good things that come along with that. And obviously the digital marketplace has evolved and will continue to evolve as we move up that channel. So you're scratching your head, and I'm scratching my head too, and I'm thinking to myself, what do I do? What do you do? We're going to give you some information around that. So this is how it used to be, right? The needs of the B2B and the B2C marketers, right? And I think ultimately, back in 2006, it's really about, email and lead management, right? Just, put up a list in a platform, get some, do some email name acquisition, and, send out an email. I refuse to use the word blast because blast is a spamming term. Indirectly targeted marketing is probably the more appropriate thing to say. But that's how it used to be, right? And that's really still how it is today in some respects. You're building a file, you're building a database. For whatever reason, however your customer comes into the website or into your organization, you have to bring that person in, nurture them through the process and through the channel. And that hasn't changed. And what has changed is that your ability to communicate with that individual now is far greater and far more expeditious than it has ever been. So there's also a lot more room to be successful, and certainly a lot more room for failure, or testing, as we say in the business, right? Test, as opposed to failure. So customer acquisition, lead gen development, lead scoring was old school, right? Old school B2B marketing principles, and that hasn't changed. We're still the only country in the world that allows you to rent a list in a way that it's not intrusive or send something to somebody without their permission. We're a total opt-out sort of regime here in the US, whereas those marketing principles are completely reversed in other countries. So as the privacy guy, as well as being the other things, that you have to rethink your strategies as it relates to domestic versus your international requirements. But I'm getting off topic, and no one's thrown anything at me yet, which is a good sign. So in the B2C space, right, it's a multi-channel focused, right? Web, mobile, offline, a little brick and mortar, maybe a bit online, and there's a lot more ingredients in the soup, so to speak, right? Retention, promotion, loyalty, and branding, which obviously you've certainly talked a lot about that today, and we'll continue to do that later on. So email, lead management, that doesn't change. Ultimately, where you end up is email, lead management, web tracking, webinar events, social, mobile, inbound. So the needs of your job functions and the things that you're thinking about are very, very complex, very similar to the slide that we showed you before. And that obviously will change and mature as the market changes and matures as it moves forward up the food chain. So what's the evolution of needs, right? So I come from an ESP background. I spent 8 years in the ESP space. And now I'm in the marketing automation space. So I've sort of been on both sides of the fence, so to speak. And there's definitely a change upon us, right? There's definitely a land grab occurring right now. ESPs are behind in development of marketing automation capabilities unless they've acquired them, right? So companies have gone out and bought other companies, try to install or bring them into the overall fold, and that's worked somewhat okay. And if you look at the sort of like the ESP sort of landscape or the ESP format, they're on the sort of left side of the channel, whereas on the marketing automation side of the channel, they're sort of leaps and bounds ahead of the competition, right? It's because they've been built from the ground up. And act on, not wanting to get into sort of the shameless sales pitch, but I will for a moment. The genesis of the company of Act On was the company that the guys and gals that founded Responses 12 years ago. So when you think about how am I going to build a better marketing automation engine, you have to look at it a bit differently, right? And so consequently, what's happening is that ESPs are trying to get into the marketing automation space, and the marketing automation providers are already there. Right, so it's great news when ExactTarget buys Pardot and they get sucked in by Salesforce. Good news for the market. It's good. It's just affirmation of actually the uniqueness of what we do and how we go about doing it. And as you guys and gals are sitting in the room here, you need fewer providers to manage an increased speed of execution and tighten the alignment between channel of responsive data and segmentation tools, right, to help you do your job better. You don't need 4 vendors to do one thing when you can do it at one spot. So the whole sort of one-stop shopping concept. So it's evolved, right? Again, I wouldn't be up here talking about this stuff if it hasn't evolved, and I've evolved, and the business is definitely where it needs to be. So, your consumers, right, when you think about your consumers are multi-channel, they're valuing relevance through personalization and contextualization, and they expect, real-time responsiveness. And damn it, if I don't get my stuff now, I'm going to go somewhere else. And if I go somewhere else, you don't get a sale and there's no ROI conversion. So I want it now. And that's the kind of culture that we live in. And our expectation is that it always works. We're always switched on. We're always multitasking. I have a thing in my house where I try to do no technology Sundays. You should try it. It's really interesting. Kids love it. But the point being is if I can't get my product now or my information now, my white paper now, then I'm going to go to my competition. So we as marketers have to be better positioned to address those issues when they come up. So, let me get some more water here, sorry. So goodbye desperate, hello sweet, right? So, no good presentation is complete without some sort of like percentage quote. And here we have from the CMO magazine, 78% of Fortune 1000 CMOs say the number one challenge marketers face is technology eats too many resources. And I think we saw from the previous panel, they talked a little bit about that in terms of constantly tweaking and doing certain things to make their programs better. Would everyone agree with that? Is that something that you all have a pain? See a lot of heads nodding. Okay, that's good. Checks are in the mail, by the way. So you save time with marketing automation, right? So marketing software doesn't have to be complicated to use or time-consuming to implement. You want it now. You want to turn it on. You want your username and password, and you want it to come up and work. So you have to consolidate marketing strategies in a single marketing automation suite, tie inbound, outbound, nurturing together, email, social, mobile, etc., or whatever's next. And then companies tie those things together with nurturing campaigns, seed more qualified leads, and generated a result. We're living proof of that. Acton is a classic example of eating our own dog food as it relates to the things that we do in our business, right? And we're a 3.5-year-old company, 1,700 customers, et cetera, and growing. So if we didn't believe in sort of the Kool-Aid, if we weren't drinking our own Kool-Aid, we wouldn't be using our own product, right? So it's just something to think about as you move forward. So when you think about the wheels of marketing automation, this is a great slide, by the way. I had my daughter do this on Sunday. Hopefully there's no spell check on there. There you go. So, you think about the wheels of marketing automation, it's tying those two sort of segments together, right? Your contact and your behavior data, CRM, et cetera, all those tools that you use to maintain, and then your marketing programs, right? So it's an overlay between those two particular facets of your challenges, and you bring them in together into one particular sort of, bucket. And obviously, when you think about that, it's all about the ROI objectives at the end of the day, utilizing that data that comes together with one strategy, one vendor, and one platform. And you're beginning to see a little bit of that right now. In fact, it's a real solution, right? So when you think about the benefits, right, in the B2C world, which we're having a B2C conference, and that's what we're thinking about right now, and you think about closed loop programs, right, execution and measurement for more channels, email, web, mobile, social in one place, all on the same platform. Better management of acquisition and retention campaigns with deeper cross-channel segmentation and automated programs with real-time data, right? So if something doesn't work on a Tuesday, you come in on Wednesday and tweak it, and it may work better for you on a Wednesday, right? That's real time. I want it now. I want to change my program now. I want to fine-tune what I'm doing now, and I want to see the results of that now, because that's the way we operate. So, and ultimately cost savings, right? So you have 4 vendors doing all those things. You can now go down to 1, and all of a sudden, life is a little bit different when it comes to budgetary factors going into next year. So marketing automation helps you develop deeper list segmentation from behavioral responses, right? What is Dave doing on my website? How many times has Dave been to my website? Do I know that Dave's there, right? And if Dave's downloaded 5 white papers about segmentation strategies, then that gives me some cause to reach out to him and have a conversation about that. That's real-time marketing, right? The more you know about your clients, the better you can market and talk to them. There are a lot of solutions here today that allow you to do that in different contexts, and obviously marketing automation is certainly one of them. Campaigns for product promotions, trial offers, brand loyalty to increase your consumer base. It's hard to get clients, right? It's hard to convert them. The hardest thing is when you lose a customer, it's really hard to get them back. And that's certainly something that you have to focus on. And then content for emerging trends, right? What's going to be hot next year? Maybe Dave doesn't like brown shoes next holiday season, he likes black shoes. So you need to know that about me, so you can sell me more shoes. Or maybe that's my wife conversation, I don't know, we'll see. So from a deploy perspective, engagement in multiple channels. Single platform gives you multiple channels to deploy content, relevancy, engagement to your customers. 45% of all Gmail traffic is open on a mobile device. Do you know that? It's great. So if you don't know that about your client, how can you market to them in a mobile strategy or a mobile game plan? It's very difficult to do that. Triggered marketing, right? this isn't the old ESP of 2004. This is triggered marketing based on real-time attributes of people doing things that have a direct response on your ROI objectives as it relates to your website activity. Pretty cool. It's just like real-time stuff. And then obviously automated programs, right? Holiday season's coming up. You want to build your list. You want to get greater ROI. How do you do that in an automated fashion when you're using multiple vendors? And you can certainly do it in one location. And ultimately, reporting. Ad hoc and advanced reporting on the performance of each campaign and touch point. Maybe I made a purchase based on certain trigger factors, utilizing, white paper activity versus webinar activity versus, previous purchase history or purchase data and that kind of thing. So it gives you more flexibility at the end of the day. So why marketing automation for the B2C space, right? It's the maturity of the channel. We wouldn't be here today if the channel has definitely matured to the point where, we're not specifically siloed for specific B2B activities. Now, one shoe doesn't always fit all, obviously, but the reality is that if you have a single platform, of a fully automated user experience, that has to be a benefit to your program, and it has to be a benefit and a direct evolution of where the market's going to, right? It's all about the data. It's all about what you know about me and what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. ESPs 5 years ago had no intent whatsoever to get into the data world. Data was a really bad four-letter word, right? That is not the case in 2013. It's all about what you know, and it's all about how you do it, how you promote that without going to too many liberties and isolating your client or your prospect. That has changed in the last 3 years. So with closed-loop programs, execution and measurement for more channels, right? Email, web, social, et cetera, outbound, inbound, all on the same platform. It's a full digital footprint of really what's occurring on your brand or your website. And trust me, there are a lot more smaller people than me back at the Act On HQ that make all this thing happen because there's definitely a lot of resources there as well. So better management, acquisition, and retention campaigns. It's okay to acquire a client. It's not illegal to go out and get a customer or rent a list or do things like that, as long as you do it in a way that is accepted best practice or nurturing of those types of data points into your overall program. That is not illegal yet. Right? So the age of, I hate to say it, but the big data, right? It's already here. Data is how you use it into what your game plan or your goals and objectives are. There will be legislation in that market. I definitely would see that coming at some point in the near term. The big data providers have already been put on notice by the government. So something is going to happen there. There are things right now in the EU, for example, where the right to be forgotten is in play. Meaning, I don't want to have any contact with you anymore. You need to forget about me and delete everything about me you've ever known. That could happen here. If that happens here, then all our jobs get a bit more difficult, right? So there's definitely a lot of balls in the air there. But for right now, better management, acquisition, retention campaigns, with cross-channel segmentation and automated programs and real-time data. Again, if something doesn't work on a Monday, change the game plan and actually make it work on a Tuesday. And ultimately, cost savings, right, for marketing automation platforms, instead of multiple technology service providers, which is very difficult to manage. Okay, so here it is. This is the marketing strategies for the holiday season. I'm going to give you my email address before I leave. I want everyone to report back to me January 15th on how it went. All right, and if you can't, then I'll just assume that it didn't go particularly well. And I may not be giving you any rocket science here, ladies and gents, but it is something to think about now. Even though it's 85 degrees outside and super humid, but this is what's going to make you a hero and ultimately get that promotion come January 1st, right? So obviously, develop an email newsletter campaign, right, based on what you want to achieve. Create an email newsletter which includes click to buy links, an invitation to receive special promotional discounts during the holiday buying season. Check. Create that Black Friday promotion, right? Cross-channel, Facebook page, Twitter feeds, social, mobile, get everyone pumped up to come to your site, make that sale, shopping cart abandonment discounts, all the good stuff that goes along with that you guys are fully aware of. But create that Black Friday promotion. Check. And then send a wish list type online survey. Online surveys are great, right? Because you're getting instant feedback of what's occurring. Or you should be getting instant feedback of what's occurring, unless they're filling out the survey wrong. But that's a good thing to do, right? So you create the survey, send it to all your customers. Reach out. Just get some information. Doesn't hurt to do that once in a while. It helps a couple of things. It certainly helps your email engagement, which will then in turn help your deliverability, which will in turn help your ROI, and that's a good thing, especially as it's going to be a land grab the next 4 months. It's a tough time of the year to mail, but that's the way it goes. Ask what types of inventory they would like to see, right? And then certainly next season, inquire about their experience, add a promotional code if appropriate or applicable, and certainly to discounts or free shipping, et cetera, right? Sort of no-brainer stuff. But that's the things to think about. Check. So transcend your holiday email program through cross-channel engagement and exclusive offers. And if you don't have a cross-channel program in place right now, again, start to think about what that may look like, right? So when I talk about deliverability and things like that, there's every company's organization touches the delivery stream. Whether you're a marketing person or a technical person or a content person, the reality is that when you hit the send button, if you have an agency giving you stuff or you have a data provider giving you stuff, they all have an influence on the end result. And the end result is the ROI objective that you've set for yourself or your management has set for yourself as it relates to those numbers. So here we've got a great example of how marketing automation can assist in the sort of the B2B, sort of the B2C channel, right? And again, this is not rocket science. It's just a way to nurture someone who comes into the program through welcome programs, onboarding appropriately, whatever kind of methodologies that you use internally. The reality is once someone is sitting on your webpage and you know that I'm there or you have some insight on me, you have a responsibility to reach out and sort of bring me into the program as best way you can. And obviously in this example, you have someone who goes through that channel through an onboarding experience, through using nurtured trigger programs from the Act-On platform or from a marketing automation platform, which is a relevant experience for that particular user, and ultimately goes into the program and starts to convert at a very high rate because of the products and services or offers that you're sending to them at the end of the day. Is everybody deploying email welcome programs within your organizations? 2 hands, 3 hands, 5 hands. Okay, don't be shy. We're all friends now. Okay, about a third of the room, right? Welcome program is a great way to bring someone into your program and just lock them in based on their preferences and those kinds of things. So I would strongly encourage you to maybe sort of think about how to deploy those as you move forward. What does the red flashing button mean on the? That's a joke. Sorry, that's a joke. That means evacuate, right? Okay. All right, I'm almost done. But so you think about the entire customer life cycle, right? And there are many, many facets that touch this in many, many organizations. But the tenets stay the same. The stages of the life cycle don't change. The ability to acquire names and ultimately take them through the consumer experience or the ROI objectives that you set. Activities, acquisition programs through customer retention. An acquisition program is very similar to a retention program. You just don't know the customer yet, or you haven't met them. Once you meet them, it's a whole different experience, right? And obviously, that all sits on top of all the many systems that are out there that you use on a daily basis. So in the Act-On world, for example, we integrate with Salesforce, CRM, all these CRM solutions that are in there that allow you to get more data and insight into your particular prospects or your clients. So to summarize, and then about 5 minutes to go. So, what we try to display today is that marketing automation enhances the consumer relationship and experience, right? You shop where you go because you like to shop there, right? The experience that you get at Nordstrom's could be different than the experience you get at Macy's. I'm not calling anybody out, but it could be. And you go where you're comfortable, right? So marketing automation is a great place to go and deploy the technology within your organizations and make your customers comfortable. And it's certainly there in play. Flexibility to create mature programs, right? I want my info now, otherwise I'm going to go somewhere else. Mature programs, reaching out, social sharing, all the things that everyone's talking about right now, but your ability to actually deliver on that vision. in real-time responsiveness. Closed loop programs for execution management for more channels. Goes without saying, the more you know about me, the more you can sell to me, and the more my experience is going to be a little bit more comfortable than it would be if I'm just, dear Dave, at Nordstrom's, and here's my size 12 red dress that I never signed up for in the first place. Better management of data assets, retention, certainly an acquisition perspective. You need to know your clients and what they're doing, and certainly be able to manage them through the process. And ultimately, cost savings by utilizing the marketing automation platform. Get rid of the multiple vendors and suppliers, take total control, and as I like to say, there's only one throat to choke if it doesn't work, right? As opposed to 6 or 7 if you have those types of relationships out there. So, that's my address, david.fowler@acton.net, act-on.net. I would encourage you to stop by a booth tomorrow. Please come take a look, kick the tires. We don't bite. Well, I don't, but maybe Jeff will. But come and see us and see what we have to offer. It's a whole new experience, and I would really encourage you to stop by and say hi to us. We'd really appreciate it. So I think I've got a couple minutes open for questions. If anyone has any, again, I'm happy to talk about pretty much anything. My new biryani recipe that I'm kicking around right now is quite cool, but certainly, but thanks again for your time.
Any questions for David?
Awesome.
Thanks you so much, David.
Thank you very much.